My girlfriend wrote a blog post about men being insecure over female friendships after she went away for the weekend with her male best friend. So I simply threw out her belongings, and when she returned, she was begging on her knees at my door to take her back. But I had already told her mom and dad everything. My name is Jake Thompson, and I'm 29 years old. This whole mess happened about 10 months ago, and I'm finally ready to put it all out there. Buckle up, everyone, because this isn't just your typical breakup story. This is a legitimate case study in dodging what could have been a complete life-destroying nuclear explosion. Even now, I still can't believe I almost married this absolute psycho. Before I dive into the complete saga of Crazy Crystal and all her antics, let me give you some essential background about my life and how I got to this point. I've been working as an electrician since I was 22 years old. I started out doing the grunt work, pulling wire through walls and learning the ropes under this old-school guy named Rick. Rick was the kind of electrician who smoked Marlboros indoors like it was still 1987 and treated every single blown fuse like it was a full-scale war zone that required immediate tactical response. Despite his quirks, I worked my ass off under him and saved every single dime I could get my hands on. Fast forward to today, and now I run my own electrical contracting business. I've got 4 trucks in the fleet, 5 full-time guys on the payroll, and a solid contract base that keeps us busy year-round. The kind of word-of-mouth pipeline that keeps the phone ringing consistently, which is exactly what you want in this business. Not bad for a guy who grew up in a single-wide trailer where my mom worked night shifts at the hospital, and my stepdad thought energy drinks constituted an actual food group. My crew is absolutely rock solid, and I trust every single one of them completely. Marcus can wire a control panel blindfolded and somehow has every manager at Lowe's on speed dial for emergency supply runs. Joey's fresh out of trade school and hungry as hell to prove himself on every job. Then there's Big Tony, who's nearly 52 years old but still outworks guys half his age without breaking a sweat. Together, we handle everything from simple ceiling fan installations to full commercial electrical builds that can run into 6 figures. When I was 27, I inherited my grandfather's place after he passed away. It's a 3-bedroom ranch house sitting on 3 acres just outside of town. Nothing flashy or Instagram-worthy, but it's clean, solid, and most importantly, completely paid off. I gutted the entire garage myself and turned it into what I consider a killer workspace. I've got a Snap-on toolbox that cost more than my first car, built-in surround sound for when I'm working late, a heavy bag in the corner for stress relief, and a beer fridge that's actually stocked with Gatorade and beef jerky because I don't drink alcohol. The house became my absolute fortress of peace and quiet. The property itself has serious potential for future expansion if I ever decide to go that route. There are mature maple trees that actually provide legitimate cooling during the brutal summer months, and I built a workshop out back where I rebuild motorcycle engines purely for fun and relaxation. My neighbors are decent people too. There's a retired couple on one side who bring me homemade cookies every few weeks, and a young family on the other side who actually wave when they drive by instead of pretending I don't exist. That peaceful setup is exactly where I met Crystal. Crystal was 26 years old when this whole nightmare started. She was blonde with that perfectly sculpted gym body and had what I can only describe as a complete Pinterest aesthetic going on. I first met her at my neighbor's Memorial Day barbecue last year. She showed up wearing these pristine white shorts that probably cost more than most people's grocery budget, holding one of those fancy sparkling waters that somehow manages to taste like regret and disappointment. When I asked what she did for work, she told me she was in digital marketing. Sounds impressive, right? Well, it turns out her version of digital marketing meant running Instagram pages for local sushi restaurants and overpriced cafes that serve $20 avocado toast on reclaimed wood tables. But the way she talked about it, you'd think she was single-handedly running the marketing campaigns for Tesla or Apple. She threw around terms like brand engagement, client verticals, and building the vibe with the kind of confidence that was so over-the-top try-hard that it actually circled back around to being funny. Despite all that, I have to admit she was genuinely attractive and had this charming, confident boss girl energy that guys either fall head over heels for or run away from as fast as possible. Unfortunately, I fell squarely into the first category, apparently. The first few dates we went on were actually pretty solid. She seemed genuinely impressed that I owned my own business, rather than just working for someone else. She asked good, thoughtful questions about the electrical work, and even laughed when I told her about some of the absolutely bizarre service calls we get. One time, I had to fish a kid's toy dinosaur out of a ceiling fan because apparently it had been part of some kind of flying lesson experiment that went horribly wrong. She thought that story was absolutely hilarious and kept asking for more crazy job stories. At the time, I figured we had that classic opposites attract thing going for us. I fix broken things with my hands and solve real problems, while she stares at screens all day and creates content for a living. Yin and yang, perfectly balanced, right? That turned out to be a monumentally big mistake. Her friend group was straight up insufferable from day one. The whole crew was led by this girl named Brittany, and I swear to God, imagine if a security camera somehow developed a full-blown personality disorder and you'd have a pretty accurate picture of this woman. Brittany had exactly 900 Instagram followers, but acted like she was constantly on some kind of international press tour. She was always filming herself opening Amazon boxes like she was carefully unveiling the Ark of the Covenant for the first time. She constantly spouted off about manifesting success and cutting out negative energy, which apparently translated to "don't question me while I systematically self-destruct for social media likes." Every single one of Crystal's friends had that exact same glazed-over influencer vibe going on. It was like watching the Avengers assemble, except instead of saving the world, they only gathered together for elaborate brunch photo shoots. They posted these incredibly vague messages about toxic energy and knowing your worth. And I'm pretty sure if the Wi-Fi went out for more than 5 minutes, they would have legitimately filed for emotional disability and live-streamed their complete breakdown. The worst part was that they couldn't have a normal human conversation without trying to capture every single moment for content. Everything in their world was a potential photo shoot. I remember one Sunday when I made burgers for everyone to watch basketball, and Brittany actually rearranged them into a perfect heart shape before she would let anyone eat. I wish I was joking about that, but I'm absolutely not. These women would show up to my house like they owned the place, constantly rearranging my furniture to get better lighting for their photos and using my bathroom mirror to film content. They'd leave their ring lights and camera equipment plugged in all over my house without even asking permission. One time I came home from a long day at work and found 3 of them filming some elaborate dance routine in my living room. They didn't even have the courtesy to ask if it was okay first. Now let me introduce you to Derek, Crystal's ex-boyfriend from college. This guy was your classic sensitive poet type, the kind of man who writes these incredibly long dramatic captions about emotional resilience and personal growth, but still posts selfies from angles that literally scream, "Please tell me I'm pretty." Crystal claimed they were just friends. You know, that tired old line that every woman uses when she wants to keep her ex around for attention. But this dude was always hanging around like a mosquito that simply refused to die, no matter how many times you swatted at it. Derek texted Crystal whenever he had a bad day, which seemed to be every other day. I once caught him literally crying on her shoulder during what was supposed to be our movie night. I kid you not, actual tears streaming down his face. When I asked what was wrong, Crystal said he just needed someone to talk to, and that I should be more understanding. She absolutely ate up the attention and drama of being the safe emotional harbor for some emotionally stunted ex-boyfriend who clearly couldn't move on with his life. Derek worked at some startup company that sold meditation apps or something equally useless to society. The dude acted like he was starring in the sequel to Eat, Pray, Love. He looked exactly like someone who got rejected from the Jedi Temple for excessive journaling and emotional instability. I remember one time he wore an actual poncho to brunch and spent 15 solid minutes explaining in excruciating detail how switching to oat milk had completely changed his life perspective. Meanwhile, I'm over here fixing power outages in February snowstorms so that people can have lights and heat again. This guy always wore those thin hipster beanies even in the middle of summer, and he had opinions about coffee that lasted longer than most people's marriages. I'm pretty sure he spent more money on skincare products than I spend on truck maintenance in an entire year. My best friend Connor, who's been in my corner since high school, spotted the problems with Crystal from the very beginning. "Bro," he said, "that chick's got more red flags than a NASCAR race." That's Connor's way of saying she was a walking HR violation wrapped in lip gloss and Instagram filters. Connor doesn't say much in general, but when he does speak up about something, it's basically gospel truth. I should have listened to him from day one. There's a specific gut feeling that every man gets when something's off with his relationship. It's not jealousy, it's not insecurity, it's just that deep down knowing that something isn't right. It's like when you're working with wire strippers and they start to slip in your hands. You know your fingers are about to get pinched before it actually happens. That's exactly the feeling I kept ignoring with Crystal. Here's some background information that's going to matter significantly later in this story. Crystal moved in with me about 13 months ago. Well, sort of moved in would be more accurate. She brought all of her stuff over, clothes, makeup, camera equipment, the works. She took over half of my walk-in closet and completely reorganized my kitchen like she was filming her own personal HGTV pilot episode. But here's the kicker. She still kept her downtown apartment lease active just in case. Her exact words were that she needed it for storage space and maybe as a little office area for her freelance marketing clients. At the time, I didn't push the issue because I figured everyone needs their own space sometimes, right? I thought I was being understanding and supportive of her independence. The truth is that apartment was her carefully constructed escape hatch, a built-in insurance policy in case things between us didn't go exactly her way. I was living like a man who was planning a serious future and building a life together. She was living like someone who was just playing a temporary role and keeping her options open. The apartment was this ridiculously overpriced studio in the trendy part of downtown that cost her $1,500 every single month for exactly 650 square feet of space. It had those exposed brick walls that probably had more actual character than she did. I helped her move what she called the essential stuff to my place, which apparently included 16 different throw pillows and an entire collection of scented candles that could have fully stocked a Bath & Body Works store. Meanwhile, I'm the one paying the mortgage, all the utilities, and buying groceries to stock the fridge. I was basically funding her entire lifestyle while she maintained a backup plan downtown. Real partnership material right there. Now here's where things really started to turn rotten. Crystal was completely obsessed, and I mean absolutely obsessed, with how our relationship looked online to her followers. Every single date night had to be filmed and staged like we were auditioning for our own reality show on The Bachelor. Anytime I cooked dinner for us, that plate better be perfectly arranged and camera ready before we could actually eat the food. When I built a new closet organization system for her clothes, she had to stage an elaborate before and after reel with multiple outfit changes. When I fixed her car's alternator and saved her about $800 in shop costs, that immediately went into one of her "My man can fix anything" Instagram stories with some sappy, over-the-top caption about being blessed. She would spend 25 minutes staging a single photograph of us just watching TV on the couch. She'd move the couch to get better lighting, adjust all the throw pillows, change her outfit twice, and then make me hold the exact same pose while she took 45 different shots from various angles. All of this effort was for a casual night in post that would get maybe 35 likes from her followers. To anyone scrolling through her social media feed, I was the perfect handyman boyfriend, like a human Pinterest board come to life. Meanwhile, in actual real life, I was starting to feel like nothing more than a background prop in her carefully curated online existence. But here's the real kicker that should have been a massive red flag. She never, not even once, posted anything about my actual work or business. You know, the thing that pays for literally everything in our lives. I could finish a brutal 12-hour job hauling heavy equipment and working in 95-degree attics, land a major commercial contract that brought in serious money, or solve an emergency electrical crisis that saved a business thousands of dollars. And she'd scroll past those accomplishments like they were meaningless. Last summer, I got called out for a major emergency at this upscale hotel downtown. Their main electrical panel had completely fried, leaving half the building without power. We're talking about potential damage in the hundreds of thousands of dollars if it wasn't fixed immediately. I worked through the entire night with my crew, troubleshooting and replacing components until we got everything back online. When it was all said and done, they wrote me a check for $9,000 on the spot as an emergency service fee. I came home exhausted but incredibly proud of what we'd accomplished. Crystal was sitting at the kitchen table, editing photos of her smoothie bowl from 3 days earlier. Her Instagram page was constantly filled with perfectly staged soy lattes, white desk aesthetics that looked like a stock photo, and posts where she'd say things like, "So blessed to work with such inspiring brands today." Meanwhile, I'm out here running actual payroll for 5 employees, ordering supplies for major projects, managing contractors and deadlines, and getting my hands dirty so she can film herself holding a laptop for 4 hours at some overpriced co-working space. And guess what her favorite thing to say was? "We're both entrepreneurs, babe." Yeah, except one of us wears steel-toed boots to actual job sites, and the other one wears Instagram filters to coffee shops. Her friends were somehow even worse when it came to understanding real work. Brittany, who always acted like she was perpetually 20 minutes late to giving her own TED Talk, once asked me with complete seriousness if I ever plan to do something more professional long-term. She said this while sitting at my own dining room table, eating the steaks I had just grilled for everyone. Like, sorry lady, but you sell crystals on Etsy and talk to your phone camera for a living. Meanwhile, I employ 5 full-time guys and pay quarterly taxes on 6-figure revenue. I didn't say that out loud at the time, but I definitely should have. Another time, this girl named Madison, who I'm pretty sure had never worked an actual day in her entire life, suggested that I should pivot into real estate because trades work was so limiting for someone with my intelligence. This brilliant career advice came right after I had just finished telling them about my plans to expand into commercial electrical work, which would potentially double our revenue within 2 years. Real estate. Like I wanted to become just another guy in a cheap suit driving a leased Kia and handing out business cards at Starbucks. Anyway, despite all these red flags that I was clearly ignoring, things were still coasting along on the surface. Crystal was completely locked in on wedding planning like it was a full-scale military operation. She had color-coded spreadsheets, multiple Pinterest boards, and was obsessing over mood lighting options for the reception. The whole production was getting bigger and more elaborate by the week. Her parents were footing the bill for most of it, around $28,000 that they'd apparently been saving since Crystal was old enough to wear braces. This covered the venue rental, flowers, catering, and a full open bar, even though I don't drink alcohol and never have. Whatever, I figured it was their money and their daughter's dream wedding. Her mom would literally cry over table linen options, and I just stayed out of the way and kept writing checks for my portion of the expenses. The whole thing felt like watching someone else's movie sometimes. The proposal happened last November, and I had been saving up for months to do it right. I ended up dropping about $9,500 on the engagement ring. White gold with a 1.3 carat diamond that was certified and flawless. It wasn't the biggest rock in the world, but it was clean and sparkled like hell under Christmas lights. When I got down on one knee in her parents' living room during their annual holiday party, her whole family went absolutely nuts with excitement. Her mom was posting boomerang videos of herself crying tears of joy, and Crystal was spinning around with her hand extended in the air like she had just won a showcase on The Price is Right. She looked like a Hallmark movie protagonist who had consumed way too much caffeine. That engagement post on her Instagram got about 650 likes, and I remember the exact number because she showed me every single comment that came in. She was refreshing the app every 30 seconds for the first few hours. The engagement party was peak Crystal in every possible way. 60 people crammed into her parents' backyard with a professional photographer, custom cocktails with our initials carved into ice cubes, and a backdrop wall covered in fake flowers specifically designed for photo opportunities. Crystal changed outfits 4 different times throughout the evening, while I wore the same button-down shirt all night long. Apparently, I got lectured afterward about not bringing enough energy to the celebration and seeming too relaxed for such an important milestone. After that engagement party, wedding planning mode hit absolute turbo speed. The guest list somehow ballooned from 120 people to over 170. The wedding registry started including $450 kitchen appliances that we would realistically never use in our entire lives. We had a full 2-hour meeting with the wedding planner specifically about napkin textures and how they would photograph under different lighting conditions. I nodded through all of it like a good fiancé who was just trying to keep the peace and make his bride-to-be happy. Then, right on cue like some kind of cosmic joke, Derek started creeping back into the picture. It was subtle at first, just likes and comments on her Instagram posts, some inside jokes referenced in the captions that I didn't understand, and then the private text messages started up again. After that, he began showing up at group events and gatherings like a persistent raccoon who had finally figured out how to open the trash can lid. That's when things really started to shift in a direction I didn't like. April rolls around, and Crystal comes home from work with that weird, fake excited energy that she always gets when she's about to drop something sketchy on me. You know exactly what I'm talking about. That overly cheerful, artificially upbeat tone, combined with a big smile that never quite reaches her eyes. It's the same tone she used when she accidentally spent $350 on candles from some influencer brand's website and had to figure out how to break the news to me. At this point, I'm elbow deep in the main electrical panel trying to fix a circuit breaker that keeps tripping because she tried to run her hairdryer, space heater, and coffee maker all at the same time again. So I'm half listening to whatever she's saying, covered in dust and debris, and trying not to short out the entire electrical system in the house. "Babe," she starts, drawing the word out like she's about to pitch me on a Disney vacation package. "You know how I've been saying that I want to get back into hiking and outdoor activities?" I grunt some kind of acknowledgement while I'm working. "Yeah, sure, whatever." She perks up like that grunt was enthusiastic approval for whatever she was about to propose. Well, Derek's organizing this amazing camping trip next weekend with his adventure club. It's supposed to be this incredible trail system about 4 hours north near the state park, with those scenic cliffs I showed you in that TikTok video last month. That got my full attention immediately. I stopped working, wiped my hands clean on a shop rag, and turned around slowly to face her. "Derek's organizing it?" I asked, keeping my voice as neutral as possible. She immediately launched into full damage control mode, like she had rehearsed this conversation in her head multiple times. "It's not just him organizing it. There's like 10 people going, both guys and girls. It's a group thing, totally casual and platonic. He invited me because I mentioned to him that I wanted to be more outdoorsy this year and get back into nature." "Right. So, your ex-boyfriend, the same guy who still sniffs around your Instagram inbox like a lost dog looking for its owner, is hosting what amounts to a co-ed sleepover in the middle of nowhere. And you think this is just about achieving your fitness goals and connecting with nature?" I kept my voice completely flat and emotionless. "Who exactly is going on this trip?" She starts rattling off names like she's reading a Yelp review out loud. "Alyssa, Rebecca, Noah, some guy named Corey. I think Marcus is bringing his girlfriend, and this one guy named Kai. All complete strangers. Not a single name that I recognized from the past 4 years of our relationship. These were people I had never met, never heard stories about, and never seen tagged in a single photo on any of her social media accounts. Yet, apparently, she knew them well enough to drive 4 hours into the wilderness and sleep in tents with them for 3 days. People she was close enough with to go camping, but not close enough with to ever mention their existence to her fiancé. The whole thing smelled worse than a blown electrical transformer, so I decided to push it further. "Have I met any of these people before?" She freezes for just half a beat too long. "No, but why does that matter? They're not really my friends. They're Derek's friends from his outdoor group. This is about hiking and enjoying nature, not socializing and making new friendships." That right there. That condescending tone shift where she made it sound like I was the weird, controlling one for asking basic follow-up questions about her plans. Classic deflection and gaslighting technique. "Let me get this straight," I said, setting down my tools completely. "My fiancé wants to disappear into the woods overnight with her ex-boyfriend and a bunch of complete strangers, and I'm supposed to just pat you on the back and wish you a fun time like you're going on a Target run?" I gave her a long, steady look. "Crystal, I'm not comfortable with that arrangement. Here it comes. Boom. The mask comes completely off." She rolls her eyes dramatically and goes straight into what sounded like a rehearsed script. "Wow, are you seriously trying to tell me who I can and can't hang out with? It's 2024, Jake. Just because Derek and I used to date doesn't mean we can't be friends as adults. You're acting like a controlling psycho right now." I'm standing there in work boots and a damp shirt from crawling around under the electrical panel, and now I'm being called a controlling psycho for having basic relationship boundaries. I didn't yell, I didn't get emotional, and I didn't lose my temper. I kept my response simple and straightforward. "Look," I said calmly, "it's not about trust, and it's not about control. It's about respect. You want to go hiking for the day with a group? That's completely fine with me. I have no problem with that whatsoever. But spending the night in a tent with your ex-boyfriend, that crosses a line for me, and I think any reasonable person would understand that boundary." That's when she really lost her mind and went completely nuclear. She started yelling at full volume, accusing me of trying to police her freedom and control her social life. She said I had toxic views on female friendships and claimed this was exactly the kind of fragile masculinity that her friend Brittany had warned her about from the very beginning. She started going off like she was delivering a monologue on some feminist podcast, talking about independence and how men try to isolate women from their support networks. I stood there watching her have this complete meltdown, just nodding slowly and letting her get it all out of her system. I've worked construction sites with grown men who scream and throw tantrums at electrical panels when a wire shorts out unexpectedly. Compared to that, this was amateur hour. After she finished her rant and ran out of steam, she stormed out of the kitchen and immediately whipped out her phone to call Brittany on speaker. I could hear Brittany's voice the second the call connected through the phone. "Girl, you will not believe the absolute crap I'm dealing with right now," Crystal started before Brittany even had a chance to say hello. That's exactly how Crystal spent the next hour, pacing back and forth through my living room, whining to Brittany about how I was apparently a jealous caveman who was trying to control her life. Meanwhile, I went back to fixing the circuit breaker like a damn adult who had actual responsibilities to handle. That was the exact moment, I think, where the last little piece of my illusion about our relationship finally broke apart completely. Up until that point, I had been giving her the benefit of the doubt, and assuming we were just having some kind of misunderstanding that we could work through with better communication. But hearing her twist the entire situation and paint me as some angry, possessive psychopath who was trying to control her every move, that's when I knew for certain that I wasn't dealing with a simple disagreement or miscommunication. I was dealing with someone who wanted all the perks and benefits of being in a committed relationship, but with absolutely none of the accountability or respect that comes with it. Something deep inside me started quietly preparing for war. Monday morning arrived, and I'm out in the garage doing what I usually do when I need to reset my brain and think clearly, organizing my tools and equipment. I had my socket sets, impact drivers, wire nuts, and drill bits all laid out in perfect order. I had a basketball game playing quietly on the radio, and the air smelled like sawdust and WD-40. It was peaceful and exactly what I needed to clear my head. Then my phone buzzed with a text message from Connor that said, "Dude, you need to see Crystal's Instagram story right now." I wiped my hands off on a shop towel, opened up the Instagram app, and boom, there it was. A front row seat to my own public execution. She had posted a long block of text with one of those black and white aesthetic backgrounds that influencers use when they want to look deep and philosophical. It read, "Some men still think they own women in 2024. They can't handle confident women who have male friends. They call it boundaries, but I call it control. Toxic masculinity is alive and well, and I won't be silenced by it." But that wasn't even the worst part. She also posted a picture of herself from the waist up with some moody forest background filter applied to it. The caption read, "I'm done apologizing for needing freedom and independence. Women aren't property that men can control. Red flags everywhere, know your worth, healing vibes only." This wasn't just on her Instagram story that would disappear after 24 hours. She had posted it to her main feed, shared it to her story, and then reposted it into this absolute dumpster fire of a Facebook group called Women Supporting Women, which, from what I could tell, was basically Britney's personal cult of personality and echo chamber. That post went completely viral within their little circle of drama addicts. It had over 70 comments within just a few hours, and the highlight reel of responses was absolutely unbelievable. Britney commented, "Girl, run as fast as you can. This is emotional abuse waiting to happen." Some girl named Kelly wrote, "Men like this are textbook narcissists. I dated one exactly like this, and they never change. Ever." One woman I had never met in my entire life actually tagged another person and said, "This is exactly the kind of guy you were warning me about last week. I wasn't just being thrown under the bus here. I was being duct taped to the bumper and dragged through the town square for the entertainment and validation of complete strangers." 4 years, 4 entire years, of fixing things she broke around the house, cooking dinner when she was stressed about work, cleaning up after her dog, sitting through endless brunches with her insufferable influencer friends, and pretending to care about their kombucha sponsorship deals and crystal healing nonsense. And this is how she repaid me, by painting me as the villain to 950 people who only knew me through her carefully cropped photos and recycled inspirational captions. But here's the weird part. I didn't get angry. I didn't throw anything across the garage. I didn't pace around cursing, and I didn't have an emotional breakdown. I just got completely still and clear-headed. It was like when you're elbow deep in a complicated junction box trying to find an electrical short and suddenly everything clicks into place. You stop guessing and second-guessing yourself because you finally know exactly what the problem is. It's the GFCI outlet, not the main breaker. That's exactly what this moment felt like. Absolute clarity. This wasn't about a disagreement over boundaries. This wasn't about miscommunication or different perspectives on relationships. This was Crystal laying the groundwork to make herself look like the victim when she eventually decided to bail on our relationship. Maybe she was already planning to line up Derek as her next healing phase boyfriend while she was at it. I took screenshots of everything, every post, every comment, every hashtag, every reaction. I downloaded backups and even printed out a few copies just for my own records. Then I made 3 very important phone calls. The first call went to Connor. "Remember what you said about red flags?" I asked him. "Bro," he replied, "I said that chick's got more red flags than a NASCAR race day." "Yeah, well, you were absolutely right. I need help moving some stuff tomorrow." Connor didn't ask a single question about what was happening or why. He just said, "Tell me when and where, and I'll be there." The second call went to David, my locksmith buddy. He's an old school guy who works out of his truck and doesn't ask unnecessary questions as long as you pay him in cash. "Hey man, can you rekey my place tomorrow? You got the tools in the truck already?" "Yeah, I can do that," David said. "Front door, garage, and keypad?" "That's right." And throw in a new heavy-duty deadbolt while you're at it. I'll throw in a six-pack for the extra work. You want this job done loud or quiet? He asked, which was his way of asking if I wanted the neighbors to know what was happening. Let's go quiet, I told him. Copy that. The third call went to my cousin Marcus, who runs a small but reliable moving company. Good guys, very discreet, and they don't ask questions about why you need things moved quickly. Hey man, you got any availability tomorrow morning for a job? What size job are we talking about? He asked. One person's worth of belongings. No furniture, just clothes, shoes, makeup, electronics, and some unnecessary kitchen gadgets that never get used. You want us to bring bubble wrap for the fragile stuff? Only for the ring light and camera equipment, I said. He laughed and said, we'll be there at 8 a.m. sharp. By the time I hung up from that last phone call, everything was already in motion. I went back inside the house, put my phone on Do Not Disturb mode, and spent the rest of the evening making a detailed list. Not an emotional revenge list, not some kind of vindictive plan to hurt her, just a practical inventory of what belonged to her and what belonged to me. What needed to leave my house the exact second she did? This was pure logistics and strategy. Game on. Tuesday morning arrived, and Crystal left for work like it was just another ordinary day. She was still scrolling through her Instagram feed and still smiling like she hadn't just completely torched my reputation in front of her little digital lynch mob the day before. That dramatic story post was still up on her profile with all the same hollow empowerment quotes and victim narrative. The same peanut gallery of her toxic friend group was still patting her on the back in the comments like she had just survived some kind of hostage situation. The second her car disappeared out of the driveway, I pulled the trigger on my plan. At exactly 8:05 a.m., Connor pulled up in his Toyota Tacoma with 2 cups of coffee, and that particular smirk he saves for when something's about to go hilariously sideways. Game day, he said, handing me one of the coffees. What's the play, coach? Full purge, I told him. Clothes, makeup, electronics, everything in the guest bathroom. And if you find anything that says live, laugh, love on it, that's going straight into the burn pile. Marcus and his moving crew showed up exactly 5 minutes later. 4 guys, 2 professional dollies, and about 60 labeled moving boxes. His foreman was this quiet, efficient guy named Lewis who could disassemble an IKEA vanity faster than a divorce lawyer in Los Angeles. No questions, no judgment, just professional-level execution of the task at hand. We had a perfect system. I pointed at something, they packed it up. Connor provided color commentary like he was broadcasting an NFL game. All right, folks, we're starting strong with the Closet Chaos package, Connor announced. We've got a full spectrum of leggings in every possible color, professional camera equipment, and 19 pairs of boots that all look completely identical to me. I went into the master bathroom and took one look at Crystal's personal care shelf. Serums, sprays, skincare products, and beauty treatments with ingredient lists longer than my annual tax return. I didn't even bother trying to sort through any of it. I just dumped everything into a large box that I labeled lab equipment, lotions, and general BS, then slapped a fragile sticker on it just to be ironic. Connor held up what looked like a jade face roller like it was evidence from a crime scene. Bro, what the hell is this thing supposed to do? That's a $65 placebo effect, I said. She used it exactly twice. Sounds about right, he replied, shaking his head. By the time we moved into the kitchen, things were just getting ridiculous. There were spiralizers, avocado slicers, a complete matcha whisk set, and about a dozen other specialty gadgets. All of them were essentially brand new, and half of them still had the original price tags attached. Connor held up an ice cream maker like it was a piece of evidence in a murder trial. Bro, when has this thing ever been used? Never, I said. It was part of her aesthetic baking era that lasted exactly 4 days and ended in a complete meltdown about lighting conditions not being perfect for her food photos. Her belongings filled up half of the moving truck. No exaggeration. Piles of fast fashion clothing, vanity accessories, unused kitchen gadgets, and about 45 decorative throw pillows that she once told me tied the room together. Newsflash, they tied together absolutely nothing. The weirdest discovery was finding 4 identical phone chargers hidden in different rooms throughout the house. Apparently, she had been hoarding them like some kind of digital prepper who was preparing for an electronic apocalypse. We found camera equipment that I didn't even know existed. Ring lights and tripods stored in the coat closet. Another complete set of filming gear hidden under the guest bed. It was like archaeological evidence of her social media addiction and need to document every moment of her life for public consumption. David the locksmith rolled up around noon, cool and professional as always. No small talk, no chit-chat, he just went straight to work. He swapped out the front door deadbolt, added a heavy-duty one to the back door, and reprogrammed the garage keypad to a code that only I knew. "Clean break?" he asked when he was finished. "Cleaner than her makeup brushes," I told him. By 2:45 p.m., the house was completely purged. Every single trace of crystal had been boxed, sealed, and loaded into the truck. All that remained were clean floors, open space, and blessed quiet. Here's where my plan gets really good. Instead of dumping all her stuff at her parents' place, or worse yet, confronting her face-to-face and giving her a chance to create more drama, I decided to get tactical about this. Remember that storage apartment she kept downtown? The one she thought I didn't know she still used occasionally to work in peace or do yoga without distractions? Yeah, well, I had made a spare key about 8 months ago because I'm not a complete idiot. And I knew she was keeping that place as her backup plan. I drove the moving truck downtown myself, parked in the back alley, and opened up her apartment. It still smelled like essential oils and overpriced scented candles from some influencer brand. I took my time and arranged everything neatly in her living room. Her clothes were hung up properly, her shoes were lined up along the wall in perfect rows, and her office chair had her laptop bag draped over it like a showroom display piece. Those decorative pillows? I stacked them in a perfect Instagram-worthy triangle right in the center of the room. Right in the middle of it all, I left a handwritten note that said, "Since you need space to figure things out and find your independence, here's all the space you need. The camping trip is yours, the house is mine. Lock the door behind me when you leave." I dropped her house keys in that little entry basket she used for her crystals and healing stones, walked out, and drove home. I sat down in my recliner, kicked my work boots off, cracked open a cold Gatorade, and turned on SportsCenter like it was any other Tuesday afternoon. Except this time, I wasn't the one getting played or manipulated. The fireworks were definitely coming, and I had a front row seat to watch the show. Crystal got home around 6:45 p.m. that evening. I was already comfortably planted in my recliner with my feet up, watching SportsCenter and eating dinner off a paper plate, some leftover pulled pork that I had made over the weekend. Zero stress, completely relaxed. I heard her car pulling into the gravel driveway, and then came the unmistakable sound of her key hitting the front door lock. Click, jiggle, nothing. Dead silence. There was a pause that lasted about 10 seconds, and then I heard her shuffling around to the garage entrance to try her key there. Another key attempt. Another complete failure to get inside. Then there was about 35 seconds of what I can only imagine was confused silence while she stood there blinking like a raccoon caught in headlights, trying to process what was happening. Then came the storm. Bang, bang, bang on the front door. What the hell is this? Open the door right now. I didn't move a single muscle, didn't even flinch. I kept my eyes glued to the TV like I was watching playoff highlights, because that's exactly what I was doing. My phone lit up on the armrest beside me like a Vegas slot machine that had just hit the jackpot. Text message number 1. "This isn't funny, let me in right now." Text message number 2. "Are you completely insane?" Text message number 3. "You can't lock me out of my house like this." That third one actually made me chuckle out loud. "Your house," I said to myself. "Lady, your name's not on the deed, you don't pay rent, you don't pay utilities, and you kept your backup apartment specifically for your independence. Well, congratulations, you're independent now." From 7:15 p.m. until 3:20 a.m., I became a one-man call center for Crystal's emotional breakdown. There were 32 missed calls on my phone, and that's not even counting the 6 calls from unknown numbers that she probably made using Brittany's phone, trying to catch me off guard and trick me into answering. Some of the voicemails she left were absolutely Academy Award-worthy performances. "You're clearly having some kind of mental breakdown, and I'm seriously worried for your safety," was one of them. "This is literally illegal what you're doing, and you're going to end up in jail," was another. "Spoiler alert, I'm not going to jail for changing the locks on my own house. I'm calling the cops on you right now." Except she didn't actually call them. "My dad's a lawyer, and you're going to be finished when he's done with you." Yeah, her dad sells State Farm insurance policies in a strip mall, so I'm not exactly trembling with fear. And my personal favorite, "When I get inside that house, you're going to regret this for the rest of your life." Oh, sweetheart, the only thing I regret is not doing this months ago. At exactly 11:12 p.m., Connor sent me a text message with an update. "Bro, she's back on Instagram and this shit's getting absolutely wild. You might want to pour yourself a drink and settle in for the show." I opened up Instagram and sure enough, there it was. Another emotional monologue posted to her story. Some people literally lose their minds when you try to have any independence or freedom. I'm scared, I'm shocked, and I honestly don't know what to do. Please pray for me while I'm dealing with actual psychotic behavior right now. The post had the full melodramatic package. A blurry selfie where she looked like she'd been crying, red and puffy eyes, soft indie music playing in the background, and hands-together prayer emojis for extra sympathy points from her followers. The comments section turned into a complete three-ring circus. Brittany wrote, "Document everything for court proceedings. Stay safe, babe. This is escalating fast." Kelly commented, "This is literally domestic abuse behavior. I would be absolutely terrified if I were you." Someone named Shayla, who I've never met in my entire life, wrote, "He sounds completely unhinged and dangerous. You need to get somewhere safe immediately and call a women's advocacy hotline." Some girl I've never even heard of tagged another person and commented, "Isn't this exactly like what happened with your ex-boyfriend last year?" The best part was that half of these women giving relationship advice were either completely single, recently divorced, or dating guys who looked like they'd never successfully changed a tire in their entire lives. Real credible sources for relationship wisdom right there. I took screenshots of absolutely everything. Every post, every comment, every emoji reaction. Just in case she decided to get really bold later and try to rewrite the entire history of what happened, I wanted to have exhibit-quality evidence of her public meltdown and victim narrative. Call me paranoid, but I prefer to think of it as preparing exhibits for potential legal proceedings. After I finished documenting her social media breakdown, I muted all notifications on my phone, tossed it onto the nightstand, and went to bed. I slept like a man who had just decluttered his entire life in a single afternoon. No more staged avocado toast photos, no more having to explain that I actually own my electrical contracting business instead of just working with wires for someone else. And no more pretending to care about her friends' kombucha sponsorship deals and crystal healing seminars. Just pure, blessed silence throughout the house. And that silence? It sounded exactly like freedom. Wednesday morning arrived, and my phone looked like it had been through an actual war zone. 47 missed calls and 68 unread text messages were waiting for me. Crystal must have spent the entire night rage texting from her downtown apartment, bouncing back and forth between direct threats, guilt trip manipulation tactics, and inspirational quotes about healing from betrayal and toxic relationships. But I wasn't done with my plan yet. Not by a long shot. You see, this wedding wasn't just some casual social event for Crystal and her family. For her parents, this was a full-scale legacy event that they had been planning and dreaming about for years. Her mom had been planning Crystal's wedding since she was old enough to fit into a training bra. They had booked the venue 11 months in advance, picked out centerpieces before we had even finalized the guest list, and even hired a professional drone operator to capture aerial footage of the ceremony and reception. We're talking about 170 confirmed guests, $28,000 already paid in deposits and down payments, and save-the-date cards that had been printed in actual gold foil. But more importantly than all the money and planning, Crystal's parents had always been decent, respectful people to me throughout our entire relationship. Her dad had even pulled me aside at Christmas and said, "I'm really glad Crystal found someone so grounded and responsible." I figured they deserved to hear the truth about what was really happening before Crystal had a chance to spin her little "I heroically escaped from an abuser" narrative and make them think I was some kind of monster. So I cleaned myself up, put on my best clothes, printed out all the screenshots in a manila folder like a legal brief, and pulled up to their house around 10:15 a.m. with my mind sharp as a courtroom prosecutor. They answered the door like it was any other normal day. "Hey Jake, good to see you. Crystal's upstairs if you're looking for her," her mom said with a warm smile. "Actually, I need to talk to both of you first," I said. "It's important." We sat down at their kitchen table with its granite countertops and a plate of freshly baked muffins that no one was going to touch. There was a whole lot of awkward silence as I laid out the documents like an FBI evidence drop. Screenshots, captions, comments, story archives, her entire curated descent into digital victimhood, complete with timestamps and receipts for everything. The moment they started reading the posts out loud, "Some men still think they own women. He's trying to isolate me from my friends, pray for me, while I deal with his unstable behavior." I could see the cracks forming in their understanding of the situation. Her mom's eyes started getting glassy, and her dad just stared at the papers in disbelief. Then he quietly asked, "Is this all real? Did she actually post all of this?" "It's her words. All public posts, nothing edited or taken out of context," I replied. You can verify every single one of these on her social media accounts right now." "She didn't say any of this to us," her mom whispered, looking genuinely hurt and confused. "She didn't have to tell you," I said. "She told everyone else instead." That's when I heard it. The sound of socked feet stomping down the stairs at full speed. Crystal. Apparently, she had been crashing at her parents' place ever since I had changed the locks and kicked her out, which made the timing of this whole confrontation even more poetic. She must have seen my car parked outside from her bedroom window. She came charging into the kitchen swinging for the fences, eyes completely wild with anger and panic. "Are you kidding me right now? You actually came to my parents' house to lie about me and spread false information?" Her voice was already cracking, not from sadness or hurt feelings, but from the realization that she was losing control of the narrative she had carefully constructed. Her dad didn't even flinch or react emotionally. He just held up one of the screenshots like it was a legal exhibit in court proceedings. "Crystal, did you really post all of this online?" he asked in a calm, measured tone. And that's when the spiral began in earnest. Her defenses came out fast and desperate. I was controlling, I was toxic, I was manipulating and twisting everything to make her look bad. She called me emotionally abusive and said I had completely snapped and kicked her out with absolutely no warning whatsoever. Her dad kept asking for straight, honest answers to simple questions, and she gave him nothing but deflection and victim narratives. Every single attempt she made to flip the script and paint herself as the wronged party just made her look worse and less credible. The worst part was watching her mom try to hide her disappointment and embarrassment. That quiet kind of shame where a parent slowly realizes that their adult child isn't the victim in the situation, they're actually the problem. The confrontation ended with her dad standing up from the table, walking into the other room for a few minutes, and coming back with a manila envelope full of wedding-related contracts and vendor agreements. "We're canceling everything," he said in a flat, emotionless tone. "I'd rather lose the deposits and down payments than lose our dignity and self-respect." I nodded, stood up from my chair, and thanked them both for listening and for treating me fairly throughout this whole mess. I walked toward the front door to leave, and that's when Crystal followed me outside, completely unhinged now that the audience was gone and she couldn't perform for anyone. "You think you're so smart and clever? You just ruined the best thing that ever happened to you in your entire life. I was settling for you, and now you're going to be alone forever with your stupid little electrical business that nobody cares about." I turned around, looked her dead in the eye, and actually laughed out loud. "Crystal," I said, "I own a house, I run a successful business, I've got a waiting list of clients who depend on my work, and 5 guys who count on me for steady employment. I'm not alone, I'm focused. You? You're 26 years old, you live in a 1-bedroom apartment surrounded by camera equipment and ring lights, and you just lost your meal ticket because you couldn't resist playing victim for social media clout. Good luck with your nature therapy weekend and finding your independence." She didn't have any response to that. She just stood there breathing heavily and blinking way too fast, her mascara already starting to slide down her cheeks. I got in my truck and drove off without looking back. 7 months later, Crystal started texting me again. At first, the messages were basic and simple. "Hey, can we talk? I miss you." Then they evolved into long paragraphs full of apologies, excuses, and therapy speak. She said she was in counseling now and learning about her toxic patterns and destructive behaviors. She claimed that she realized what she had lost and how badly she had messed up our relationship. She said the camping trip had been absolutely nothing, that Derek meant nothing to her, and that all the social media drama had been a huge mistake that she regretted every day. Apparently, Derek had completely ghosted her right after that camping weekend. Shocking development, I know. And her friend group had splintered apart faster than a cheap tent in a windstorm. Brittany had some kind of falling out with half the group over a brand sponsorship deal gone wrong. And most of the crew had unfollowed each other on social media. The entire influencer empire had collapsed from the inside like a house of cards. Then last month, she actually showed up at my house in person. She pulled into my driveway in the same old car and just sat there in park for a full 25 minutes. I watched her from the kitchen window, and she looked like a completely different person. No makeup, wearing a baggy hoodie, hair pulled back in a sad little bun. She looked like the ghost of the person she used to pretend to be online. She finally worked up the courage to walk up to my front door and knock. "Can we please talk?" she asked quietly. I stepped outside but didn't invite her into the house. "Make it quick." What followed was a complete performance worthy of an Oscar nomination. Apologies, tears, offers to delete all her social media accounts, promises to cut off all her toxic friends, suggestions for couples counseling. She said she would do whatever it took to make things work between us again. She said she had never stopped loving me and that I was the best man she had ever known in her entire life. I let her finish her entire speech and let the silence sit in the air for a long moment. Then I hit her with the truth. Crystal, I appreciate the apology, and I'm glad you're getting help. But you didn't just make a mistake or have a momentary lapse in judgment. You showed me your true character when things got difficult. When we had a disagreement, you didn't talk to me or try to work through it. Instead, you broadcasted lies about me to the entire world and tried to turn people against me while making yourself look like the victim. That's not miscommunication or a relationship problem. That's who you are as a person. She started sobbing uncontrollably, mascara running down her cheeks, hands shaking, the whole dramatic production. But I kept my voice level and calm. I need you to leave my property now and don't come back. I went inside, locked the door behind me, and stood at the window watching her. She sat in her car for 12 more minutes, probably hoping I would change my mind and come back outside. Then she finally drove off. That was 4 weeks ago, and I haven't heard from her since. Connor was absolutely right from the very beginning. Crystal wanted a man she could film and use as a prop for her social media content. I wanted a woman I could actually build a real life with. My house is calm and peaceful now, exactly the way it should be. I found out through a mutual acquaintance that Crystal is back on dating apps but doesn't post much content anymore. Her Instagram account is set to private now, and Brittany has apparently disappeared from social media completely. Karma has a funny way of circling back around the block. I'm seeing someone new now. She's a baker who makes the most incredible donuts you've ever tasted. No drama, no followers to impress, no need to document every moment of her life. She has her own mortgage, her own dog, and she thinks this entire story is absolutely hilarious. We laugh about it over burgers on my back deck while watching the sunset. Crystal wanted a hashtag-worthy love story for her Instagram feed. I gave her the reality check that social media doesn't allow. To all the people who might say I should have communicated better or tried harder to work things out, I communicated perfectly. I clearly stated my boundary, and she chose to ignore it and publicly attack me instead of respecting it. Sometimes the best communication is showing someone the door and letting them figure out their own problems. Never let anyone disrespect you or your boundaries, no matter how good they look in yoga pants or how many followers they have. You deserve better than that.